The movie begins back in 1879 in a town named Rose Creek. Miners use explosives to excavate gold, and some men from town say it belongs to Mr. Bogue. They take some of the gold to a well-protected bank using a wagon. Meanwhile, some men argue about their situation in a church and talk about how Bogue is running them out of their town using lies and money. Matthew Cullen suggests that they stay in the town and fight for what is theirs, and some men suddenly barge into the building. Bogue enters the building with his goons and walks to the altar. He forces a boy to show the people the contents of a jar, and they see that it is sand. Bogue offers to sell each parcel of sand for $20 and says the deal will get sour if they refuse. His goons push everyone out of the church and prepare to set it ablaze. Matthew gets angry and yells at Bogue while asking what type of man he is. Bogue walks to Matthew and shoots him, causing his goons to end several innocent people around. Emma, Matthew's wife, cries as she holds his body. Bogue instructs his men to leave the deceased people's bodies on display. He returns to his office and stares at the burning church before entering. Later, a man named Sam Chisholm rides into Amador City, and the citizens stare at him as he enters. Some pick up their weapons while others ask if he knows where he is. Joshua Faraday plays cards in a bar while the woman gives him a massage. Everyone stops what they are doing and stares at Sam as he enters the bar. He orders a drink at the counter and gives the waiter extra money because he needs information on a man. Sam asks about a man named Daniel Harrison, aka Powder Dan, and says he is an outlaw who committed several heinous offenses. He whispers into the waiter's ear as some men clench their guns. Sam quickly disarms the men, and the waiter, who is Dan, asks him to calm down. He pleads for his life and says he has a family, but Sam says they are better off without him. Dan reaches for his weapon, but Sam shoots him and takes his life. He instructs the people to get the sheriff, and everyone runs out. Faraday remains in the bar, and Sam leaves a drink for him. Sam leaves the building as several armed men point their guns at him. He explains that he is working for the law and shows them evidence that Powder Dan is a wanted criminal. The sheriff and his men allow Sam to leave, but Emma tries to talk to him. She begs for help in taking their town back from Bogue. Sam isn't interested at first, but realizes that Emma is desperate as she gives him everything the people have. Meanwhile, Faraday leaves the bar with all the money the other players left behind. Some men ambush him and threaten to shoot him as they take his gun. They lead him out of the town to the entrance of a mine, but Faraday refuses to enter because it has rats. The men prepare to end him, but he offers to show them a magic trick. He correctly guesses the card they picked from a deck, but suddenly pulls out a gun and ends one of them. He shoots the other man's ear and leaves as he says they should never cross paths again. Emma describes Rose Creek to Sam, and he informs him of the implications of starting a revolution against Bogue. Emma says Bogue brought it upon himself. Faraday goes to retrieve his horse, but the man, who is short in stature, says he must pay before taking it. They get into a standoff, but Sam emerges with Emma and Teddy Q. He offers to pay for the horse if Faraday joins their mission, but says it's impossible. Faraday gets interested and decides to join them. The teen rides out of the town, and Faraday and Sam inform him that they are planning against Bogue. He instructs Faraday to enter a town named Volcano Springs to recruit a man named Goodnight Robichaux, and says they should meet outside Junction City in 3 days. Emma follows Sam as they ride into the woods. They stop at a cabin and find a deceased man inside. Emma suddenly falls as she is caught in a trap by a man named Vasquez. Sam makes a deal with Vasquez and offers not to arrest him if he joins their team. Vasquez smiles and agrees to the deal. Faraday and Teddy Q arrive at Volcano Spring and watch as some men duel. They both fire their guns at the targets, and the man in charge, who is Robichaux, says Billy Rocks is the winner. Arcade refuses to believe and calls for a real brawl. Billy agrees, and Robichaux pulls his trigger. Arcade shoots at Billy but misses, and Billy ends his life using a hairpin. Robichaux goes around collecting money from the people who placed bets, and Faraday gets his attention. They go to a bar where Robichaux tells them how Billy is a skilled fighter. He says Billy must accompany him wherever he goes, and Teddy Q agrees. Faraday and the others return to where Sam is, and Robichaux tells Emma not to be nervous. They begin traveling together and stop at a building where Sam tells them about Jack Horn. The Pigeon brothers claim to have ended his life, but someone suddenly throws an axe and ends one of the brothers. Horn runs towards the second brother and kicks his face as he falls down. Sam reminds Horn of when they met and asks if he is interested in joining their group. Horn doesn't respond as he retrieves his property from the Pigeon brothers and walks away. The group continues moving and makes camp as night falls. Faraday offers to teach Teddy Q how to use a gun, and everyone watches as he points his gun at Teddy Q. Teddy walks to Emma and sits beside her. Robichaux talks to Sam about his late sister and hopes they are fighting for the future and not for her. The following morning, everyone wakes up to the smell of blood and finds Horn standing with them. They are startled as they see a Native American ride toward them and prepare for a fight because the natives travel in groups. Sam walks to him while speaking his language, and the man reveals that his elders say he has a different path in life. He introduces himself as Red Harvest and gives Sam a piece of meat from his hunt. Sam eats the raw meat, and Red Harvest eats from it. He walks back to the others and informs them that Red Harvest is on their side. Sam and Billy ride into Rose Creek as Bogue's hired men clench their weapons. They stop Sam as he rides and instruct him to hand over his weapon. Sam doesn't complain as he gives the sheriff the gun, but says his colleagues might not feel the same way. Faraday and the others emerge and surround the sheriff. Sam instructs the goons to send a message to Bogue. They don't take him seriously and ask a gunman on a rooftop to shoot them. Red Harvest takes down the man on the roof, and Sam instructs his horse to leave. Tensions arise as everyone stares at themselves and clenches their weapons. A shootout ensues, and Sam and his group take out a majority of the goons. They enter several buildings as some goons try to hide but end their lives. Robichaux is unable to end anyone as he panics throughout the fight. The shootout ends, and Robichaux is unable to shoot a man that's escaping. Billy takes his gun and realizes that it isn't loaded. The group finds the sheriff hiding and instructs him to stand before them. Sam gives him a message to pass to Bogue and says Bogue must meet them in person if he wants his town back. The sheriff leaves to pass the message, and the group wonders where the citizens are. Emma and Teddy Q enter the town and convince the people to come out of hiding. She tells everyone she brought Sam and the others to help, and Sam says they'll have to fight for their town if they want to keep it. The people are scared as most of them aren't fighters, and Sam says they have a week to prepare for Bogue's return. The gathering ends, and Emma is sad because most of her people aren't on her side. The group eats in a building, and multiple people stare at them. Red Harvest doesn't like their food, but Sam makes a joke about it. Time passes, and most of the residents pack their belongings. They leave the town while a few remain and decide to fight for their home. Sam and the others begin training the men for the upcoming battle, but are disappointed as the men learn slowly. Robichaux yells at the men as he teaches them, but Faraday arrives and says they need inspiration. He gives Robichaux a rifle and instructs the men to do what he does. Robichaux hesitates to shoot but gets annoyed and shoots the target. He hits it several times and proves why he is called a sharpshooter. Sam and the group stare at the town from a distance as they come up with a plan. They wonder if it will work, and Faraday asks Sam when he can own his horse again. Later, several people work at the mines, and with each explosion, a guard's life is ended by a rifle. All the guards are taken down, and the group goes to the miners. Sam says they are free to go, or they can stay and fight with them. Billy opens a building's door, and they find a large amount of explosives inside. They gather the explosives and return to town with the miners. The sheriff arrives at Bogue's house in Sacramento, and some guards take him inside. He informs Bogue that Sam and his men have taken Rose Creek. The sheriff says Sam is a man who can't be bought with money, and Bogue wonders how only 7 men defeated over 20 of his elite goons. Bogue suddenly pulls out a gun and ends the sheriff's life. He says history won't remember Rose Creek and instructs Denali to recruit an army. Emma practices her shooting, and Faraday meets her. She asks why he agreed to fight someone else's fight, and he says he needs his horse back from Sam. Sam talks about their plan with the others and instructs Robichaux to aim for Bogue once he enters the town. They walk around as they plan how they'll take out the incoming enemy. Sam instructs Emma to protect the women and children, but she says she wants to fight. The townspeople begin setting up traps around and digging ditches while Faraday and Vasquez prepare the explosives. Red Harvest suddenly rides out of the town as fast as he can. That night, everyone has dinner, and Faraday makes jokes. Vasquez joins him, and they make everyone laugh. Robichaux talks to Billy and says he's going to die a terrible death because he used a gun in anger. He talks about hearing a strange voice, and Billy assures him that it's just a dream. A woman returns Horn's coat after stitching it, and Vasquez says he should return the favor. Sam stands on a balcony, and the preacher meets him. He thanks Sam for helping the town and says they haven't been happy for a long time. Robichaux and some others fix the town's bell the next day, and Red Harvest returns. He says Bogue and his men will return by dawn, and Bogue rides with his army. The preacher prays with the townspeople at night while Sam sees as Robichaux tries to leave. Robichaux says he is tired of taking people's lives because it never ends and leaves on a horse. Sam goes to the others and asks if anyone else wants to leave. They all intend on fighting till the end, and Sam walks toward the church. Red Harvest suddenly says he is hungry, and they are shocked that he can speak English. Sam goes to the church and Emma walks in. She offers to take Robichaux's place and says she saw him leave earlier. She walks out of the church without saying anything else. The sun begins to rise, and everyone prepares for the upcoming battle. Bogue and his men arrive at the town, but wait at the outskirts. Sam rides to the entrance and confirms that Bogue has arrived. Bogue instructs Denali to begin the attack, and Denali rides to the town with his men. Sam and the others hold their position until the men get within range. Horn activates the explosives and sends most of the attackers to the ground. The attackers who follow a different path are met by a surprise attack. Townspeople knock them off their horses using traps and end their lives. Some of the attackers make it into the town, and Red Harvest and Emma are forced to take them down. They continue their plan in the town as they lure the attackers to strategic places. Horn and his men emerge from the trenches they dug and shoot at the attackers. Some attackers prevail in ending the lives of the townspeople, but the battle continues. Faraday activates several traps he sets around the area, and it takes down several men. Horn and his men run back into the town, but some are knocked down. They continue running as Emma and her group lie on a balcony and shoot. Horn enters a building, and the men open the door as he ignites a large gun. The gun takes the lives of several men, and they continue running. They make it to the church, but Bogue's right-hand man shoots Faraday. Vasquez gets angry as he shoots the man multiple times and sends him flying into a casket. The townspeople trap the attackers in front of the church and take them down one by one. Bogue reveals his secret weapon that he intends to use on both friend and foe. Robichaux suddenly rides into the town to rejoin his people. He informs them that Bogue has a Gatling gun, and Bogue activates it. The gun begins to take down anyone in its path, and the people run for shelter. The Gatling gun runs out of bullets after causing a lot of damage. Robichaux informs them that Bogue is reloading, and they run to check on the children. He climbs to where the bell is while Horn helps a man who is wounded. Denali emerges and shoots Horn several times with his arrows. Horn says they are giants brought to rid the world of evil, but Denali keeps shooting and ends his life. Sam and the others move the women and children through the bushes for safety. Denali enters a building and prepares to end Emma, but Red Harvest arrives. He defeats Denali and calls him a disgrace as he pushes him off the balcony. Bogue and his men reload the Gatling gun and continue shooting. Sam sees that Faraday is injured and says Faraday is no longer in debt to him. They continue attacking as Sam, Robichaud, and Billy make cover for Faraday, who is riding toward the Gatling gun. Bogue's men use the gun to take down Robichaud and Billy while they shoot Faraday several times. Faraday refuses to go down and slowly moves toward them. He eventually stops, and one of the attackers helps him light his cigarette. Faraday pretends to pass away as the attacker walks away, but he looks up and is holding a lit stick of dynamite. He throws the dynamite at the gun and destroys it, but also gets caught in the explosion. Bogue rides into what's left of the town with his remaining men. The men run into a building after hearing a strange noise. Gunshots suddenly come from the building, and the men lose their lives. Bogue is shocked as Sam steps out with a gun in his hand. He puts the gun back in its case and asks Bogue about an incident where he hired men to steal land. Bogue calls the victims sheep and brawls with Sam. Sam shoots the gun out of his hand and instructs him to pick it up. Bogue tries to run away, but Sam shoots him and knocks him down. Bogue crawls as he enters the church and begs for his life. He gets on the altar, and Sam says they should pray together. He instructs Bogue to pray for his family that the land thieves ended years ago. Sam begins strangling Bogue as he prays, and Bogue reaches for his small gun. Emma shoots Bogue and ends his life before he can harm Sam. Sam walks out of the church, and the survivors of the war gather. Sam, Vasquez, and Red Harvest are the only ones to survive, and they leave the town as the people thank them. Faraday, Robichaud, Billy, and Horn are properly laid to rest. And this is the end. This was a recap of the 2016 movie The Magnificent Seven, directed by Antoine Fuqua, and written by Nick Pizzolatto and Richard Wenk. It is a remake of the 1960 film of the same name, which itself was a remake of Akira Kurosawa's 1954 film Seven Samurai. The film stars Denzel Washington, Chris Pratt, Ethan Hawke, Vincent D'Onofrio, Lee Byung-hun, Manuel Garcia-Rolfo, Martin Sensmeyer, Peter Sarsgaard, and Haley Bennett. So, who else thinks Bogue got what he deserved at the end? Let us know in the comments below with #Cinemarca.